This is Dan, and this is the Napkin Academy. And today's lesson is how to draw anything. That's right, how to draw anything at all. Because what we're not going to do is we're not going to start out by saying, huh? I don't know how to draw. I can't draw. What we're going to do is we're going to start out by saying, okay, I got it. I will figure out a way to be able to draw anything I want. And here's the way we're going to start. So when we think about drawing, again, we don't start by thinking, I can't draw. And we don't start by thinking, I don't know what to draw. We do something very simple, and it comes down to 4 little letters, which I call S, S, P, D. And what I mean by that is shape. Can I draw a shape? Well, I think so. How about a square? Can I draw a square? What do you know? Yes, I can. Size. Can I draw that square in different sizes? Well, gosh, what do you know? I can. And what about position? Can I draw that square in different positions? Can I draw one here? And I can draw one kind of behind it. And can I draw one over here? And can I draw one over here? And can I draw one over here? And maybe back here? Well, yes, I can. And the last letter is direction. That is to say, can I draw my squares moving in a particular direction, like from here to here? Yes, I can. Well, what do you know? Yes, I can. Yes, I can draw shapes. I can draw them in different sizes. I can draw them in different positions, and I can draw them in different directions. S, S, P, D. That's all we need to think about to draw anything. Now, there's even a way, a little mnemonic, to help us remember these 4 letters. Super strategists. We are great strategists. Practice drawing. Super strategists practice drawing. S, S, P, D. Can I draw shape? Can I draw size? Can I draw position? Can I draw direction? Yes, I can draw anything. So what was S, the first one? It was shape. And the happy news is we don't need to be able to draw that many shapes. To draw anything, we need to be able to draw 5 shapes, and they are a line. And I'd like you to pretend that my computer screen here is just like your piece of paper. And as I draw these things, I'd love it if you would draw along with me. Get a little bit of practice. A line. The second shape we need to know how to draw is a square. The third shape is a circle. The fourth shape is a triangle. And the fifth shape is a blob. Those are the shapes. Those are all we need. Now, of course, there are variations. I could draw a long square. We'll call it a rectangle, either way. I could draw a square on its side. That makes a diamond. I can make some variations on circles, too. I can make ovals. I can make long, wide ovals that look like spots of water on the ground. And I can make little tiny circles. As far as triangles, there aren't a whole lot of variations I can do, but I don't need to. I can make tall, skinny triangles. Looks like a, I don't know, looks like a dunce's hat. Or I can make long, skinny triangles. Looks like a pennant. Oh, yeah, hey, SF Giants. Yes. World champions last year. SF Giants. Those are what I can do with a triangle. And with blobs, well, I can do lots of things. I can make a bilobed blob. I can make a trilobed blob. I can make a 4-legged blob. Or I can just make any old Bob the Blob. There we have him, Bob the Blob. Those are my shapes. Don't have to worry about drawing anything more than that. Any idea we have, any object that we want to draw, any thought that we want to draw is going to be composed of these 5 shapes. So let's go ahead then and talk about S number 2, which was size. And what I mean by that is there's going to be a tremendous amount that we can emphasize in a drawing by making something small or making something big. Now, if I draw a little tiny square and I draw a big square, I can think a couple of things. I can think either this square is bigger than that square, Or I could think that this square is in front of that other little square. So here's a rule about size. Rule number 1 about size is that the bigger something is, the closer it appears to be. The bigger something is, the closer it appears to be. So if I want to make something look like it's closer to me, let's say there's a little circle, here's another circle. The one that's closer to me is probably going to be this bigger circle. Now, there is an exception to that because it could also be that this is a tennis ball and this is a basketball. Meaning I could be showing that by making one of my circles bigger than the other, I'm actually showing that the circle's meant to be bigger. So rule 1a is that bigger can also just mean bigger. But those are some interesting things to take with us. And here, let me give you a bit of an example. Let's combine a triangle and a square, and we get a house. Now, if I was to draw a bigger house next to it, my assumption is probably going to be, since they look the same, that this house is in front of that house. It's probably not going to be that this is a much, much bigger house because that would be crazy. Houses don't look like that. If I wanted to show that something was bigger, here's my house, and let's say I want to put it next to a really big hotel. Okay, well now they have a similar scale. So now I've got an idea that size in this case matters in terms of which is a bigger object. Let's move on then to P, which was position. So I've got my square. It's over here, and I've got a bigger square over here, so I'm changing size, but now I'm also going to change position. Now there's a rule regarding position as well. If I look at those two squares, I'm going to assume, let's make two squares that are the same size. I'm going to assume, in this case, rule regarding position, rule 1, is that lower equals closer to me. So I'm going to assume if I draw these two squares that this one is probably a little bit closer to me than that one is. It's just kind of intuitive in the way our vision system works that we assume generally, since we're looking at things that are on a horizon, that the thing that is lower is the thing that's going to be closer to us. Now, I can force that by drawing one square here and drawing another one behind it. Now I have no question which one is in front and which one's behind, and I can even do that by putting something behind lower. Now I know that this one is still behind that one even though it's a little bit smaller. Position is going to mean all kinds of things because as we start to draw maps later on, we're going to say that, if this is my house over here and here's some buried treasure over here, there's some distance between them, there's some position between them. I could say then that I am going to be over here, and I can see also what my position is relative to those. So that's what position means. And then the last of our 4 key letters is direction. And what I mean by that is I could draw a series of squares that are changing in a very specific way and are moving clearly in a very specific direction. And that's going to tell me something. That could tell me about, I don't know, the price of goods on the stock market, or that could tell me about the growth of a market. Also, in terms of direction, I can be really overt, and the way I do that is I can say, I'm here, and I want to be here. Well, let's add an arrow. And if we think about it, what is an arrow but a line and a triangle? Remember, 2 of our essential shapes. Another way, if I want to combine a square with a triangle, I get a big arrow, and if I want to draw direction, I can be real clear about it. A rule that we have for direction, and this is very much a Western cultural rule, is that if we want to show progress, if we want to show direction, we tend to move from left to right is time. And this has to do with many things. Largely it has to do with the way that we read, Most of us in the West, most of the languages we have read from left to right. And so we have a tendency to assume that time moves from left to right, and a standard that we have is if I draw a series of arrows like that, I know that I'm moving across time. That's one of the key issues about direction, is that it does have a tendency to show time. And we can know that that this is a cultural issue because if we look at many other cultures, there's a tendency to draw time going the other way. And for most of us in the West, that feels very strange. We would never say that this is now and this is tomorrow. But it's interesting because in Japan, for example, where reading can go this way, reading can go this way, reading can go this way, there is a greater tendency to show that time moves in this opposite direction. This is just a little side note. If you ever happen to sit in a little Prius, a little Toyota Prius, was it Toyota logo, something like that. And if you look at the dashboard, because a Prius is this hybrid electric car, they have this really nice dashboard that you can see. You can see your fuel efficiency. And what's interesting about it is it has a little bar chart that shows you your fuel efficiency, and it actually moves in this direction over time. So as you drive, the bar moves that way, which the first time you look at it in a Prius, you're thinking, what? What is this? Am I driving backwards? Well, it's just a different cultural standard. So that's the importance of direction. And let's conclude all of this then with a real quick summary. What did we learn? Well, we learned that super seers practice drawing. What that means is if we can remember some shapes, size, position, and direction, we can draw pretty much anything. Let me wrap up with a little visual story, prove that we can actually draw a full idea using just these simple things. So let's say that there's a house over here, which is of course a box, another square with a triangle sitting on top, and we're going to call that Grandma's house. And I'm going to have a little circle, stick, triangle, a couple of other sticks with little circles on them, a couple of triangles here. Little girl, this is Little Red Riding Hood, who's trying to make her way. What is Little Red Riding Hood carrying anyway? She's got a basket, right? She's got a little basket, trying to make her way to Grandma's house. But what's she going to run into along the way? Some very mean triangles with a square attached and a half circle for a tail. That wily old wolf who's going to intercept Robin Hood right along the way. And there we've drawn out one of the great classic stories of all time, using nothing more than our basic little shapes.